Hello, everybody. Welcome to another show with the Khalifa Shakt and the Mansour Ashkar show. We are privileged today to have with us honorable guest, the deputy of president of the parliament and a parliament member from the Likud party, Hanoch Melievsky. How are you? Good day. How are you doing?
I'm okay. It's a pleasure being here. Sorry of the circumstances of what's happening right now in Syria. It's heartbreaking to see the footage that comes out of there. Uh, the horror of the from Islam, but with the help of God and with the help of our planes and the IDF, hopefully we will be able to end these horrific acts very, very soon.
You have a very well-known name of someone who's very keen on the Druze community. You pushed some laws and the benefit of the Druze community. I wonder, how do you feel this day, and what do you know is happening now in Syria? Give me your perspective about how you are going through this day.
I think every Israeli that served in the army, especially people that did combat service, uh, knows our Druze brothers, have served with our Druze brothers, and feel obligated to them. I personally feel obligated to them because I think within Israel we have failed uh, in providing the Druze citizens what we need to provide as a country to those who have been basically in a blood alliance with us since the establishment of Israel. And I'm trying to fix whatever can be fixed in that area. So I'm not the only one. I think the younger generation feels that more intensely, especially again those who did military service with our Druze brothers, and again looking and seeing of what's happening in Syria is heartbreaking, and we have applied as much pressure as we can. Again, for the Israeli government and the Israeli army to intervene. I'm glad it's doing so. I can't get into details because from obvious reasons, but I know that the government is much obligated to defend the uh, and those who harm them.
I think are we hearing him very because
Yeah, the last
I'm
sentence was being cut. I
yeah.
think it's very important to add for the viewers that are watching right now. We're all Israelis here. Me and Khalifa are Jews. Hanoch here is a Jew. He is a parliament member. He is the deputy spokesman for the Knesset. That's a very, very serious place. And he's talking about defending the Druze in a foreign land, in an enemy country, as if it is the moral and obligation of Israel. Now, people need to understand. Even we, the Druze, know that this is not something to be taken for granted. We are so lucky to be living in a country that takes that responsibility. Syria is an enemy country who is right now going and attacking its own citizens, and Israel, who is engaged in 7 fronts basically right now, 600 and plus days of war, choose to go out of our way to defend villagers and minorities in a foreign land because evil jihadist dictators are coming to kill them. People, and I hope that people understand what a historical moment this is, and what a true testimony to the greatness of this nation, to the greatness of the leadership of this nation, of everything, our Air Force, our leaders, our politicians. This is not something to take for granted. You know how many Christians, and no due respect to any other countries, but there's Christians being massacred in Sudan and other places. You don't see Christian countries going to help their own even. Israel have no reason to do that except from the respect to the blood covenant with the Druze citizens, with me and Khalifa, who gave, all of our life, and our grandparents who served all in the army. I'm sure Hanoch as well, 100% met Druze soldiers with him in the service. It's part of our country. We come together, we meet together, and when the Jews were in their lowest moments in October 7, Many of the Druze just left their homes, defied order sometimes, and went into these kibbutzim. We know Salman Habake and others who didn't listen to the command. He just took his tank, drove in, and managed to be one of the contributing factors to saving many lives with the paratroopers there. What is that?
Even those who went to the army, there were a lot of soldiers. There were,
Hanoch, I guess you need to flip your phone because the sound from the speaker, yeah, I think
now
this
it's
will be
better.
much better.
Much better.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was saying about the Jewish population in their villages. The civilians, even those not going to the army, opened their houses and their hearts and their kitchens to all the soldiers that was up north, to the population that got evacuated from their homes in the days, in the start of the war, and we all felt that the Jewish cities and villages were like taking care about everybody who was there. It didn't matter what time it was. If a regiment came in a Jews village, immediately people came out. Are you hungry? Do you need a place to sleep? And within minutes, everything was taken care of. So it's something that goes both ways. So we don't see our acting, for our brothers in the Golan Heights and in Syria as something, it's uncommon, but it's something very, very Israeli, I think, to do.
Yeah, you know
And
what's my
more,
mom's favorite hobby, Sobi Khalifa? My mom's favorite hobby. I used to think for a long time, why does my mom not have hobbies? And I tried to convince her to have many hobbies, even silly ones. Let's play FIFA just so you can play with your son, with my brother Slim. Doesn't want. Her One of her only real hobbies is to feed Israeli soldiers. My mom will go out of her way. One time I had a serious fight with my mom in the last Lebanon war. My mom woke up in the morning, told me, Mansour, grab your bags, we're going to the border with Lebanon. I just finished my service. I just got out, we're ready to go to South America. I said, Mom, you can't, it's a war zone. She had a fight with me. She walked to the train station with a tabun. I'm going there to make food for these brave soldiers that are defending us. So I convinced her, and then listen, Mom, a lot of displaced families came to Eilat. Let's feed them instead. I had to negotiate with her not to go and cross the border so we can feed the
Yes.
soldiers. So what you said is true. We are in this together, and right now it's the best testimony of this blood covenant. And it's really makes me emotional and very proud of our country. Khalifa, you're
Yes.
muted. I love it when he moves his hands and
yeah, so my family has a Druze kosher catering business, and once
Really?
October 7 happened, all the business got recruited and sending Druze pitas to the front, and it was our front, like the civilian front of backing up all the brave soldiers that did their deed. But I want to challenge this conversation a bit because some of the Israelis may be separatists and will say, well, Israel is going here to a deep mud that it's not, it doesn't know what it's doing and it's been dragged to some trap. How do you see it in your eyes to this argument?
Well, I haven't heard such voices in Parliament at all. To be very frank and honest with you, I think that everybody understands that these jihadists, they're killing the Druses now because they're close to them, and when they finish, God forbid, if they finish killing them, they'll come here and kill us. That point of view, that state of mind, that extreme zealousness is not gonna stop. Therefore, it's a joint enemy. And again, we're not doing the Jews a favor here. We are fighting to protect the Jews because, first of all, they're our brothers, and second, the enemy is the same enemy. And we cannot have him come near our borders. We cannot have him make any achievements. And of course, we cannot allow him to act like he's acting now, regardless, of all these human rights stuff and everything. These are cruel and vicious murderers. And they're enemies of everybody who wants to, live in a free world. Therefore, there's no question, at least in my mind, about it.
That's very interesting that the government sees that, because we're very happy to hear that, because I felt many times, just like you said, that these people now they're coming with tanks and grads and artillery. Today they're using against the Druze. Tomorrow they'll undoubtedly use them against the Jews. And if anyone had a doubt, Syria want to join the Abraham Accord, I wish they would. But you look at their soldiers. We're not talking right now, or their jihadists. Their soldiers are going around shaving beards of sheikhs. Images we saw in the Holocaust. Murdering people in their prayer house, kidnapping women and children. So if anyone think for a second that they only do that to the Druze and they won't do it to the Jews or the Christians or the Americans or the Israelis or the Europeans, you're living in La La Land, my friend. You're living in La La Land. This is the reality. You just got a glimpse of how the Middle East looks like outside of Israel.
It's October 7th happening in a other geographical area. That's all it is.
What scares me, and I think that's one of the reasons that we saw today the Druze jumping over the fence and running into an enemy country. And I'm not encouraging breaking the law in any way. But I think what they realize is that if the man in Sweden fall, we're talking about a possible October 7 on steroids. In Israel, we had the IDF that was able to contain it. If the IDF did not come and stop October 7, they would have reached, all the way to Tel Aviv, and then the numbers would have been higher. In Syria, if the Druze don't hold the Sweden, there's about 700,000 people living there. And not only Druze, by the way, it's one of the biggest population of Druze. So this is a real consistential ethnical threat, cleansing threat that is happening there. And that's why I think a lot of the Druze even felt, with due respect to the Air Force, and they're doing a magnificent job, these angels in the sky, for generations to come, we'll only learn how privileged we are that we have such brave and strong pilots, for what they did in Iran and I don't know, and everything around. But even with that, there's so many jihadists right now. And Khalifa, maybe I'll find that video. I did a translation to the recording of that guy that was calling the soldiers in Syria, one of the sheikhs, I guess, and telling them
I wanna show you another video, you and the viewers. This is a video from Sweden. Here you go.
Show us.
Wait, just a second.
Great video.
This is from Sweden.
Wow.
Raising a Druze flag on Sweden, trying to make it official that we want to be part of the Druze from the Israeli community, and I went along with them, hearing their desperation, and I would like to your input about that, because here we were going through nerve-wracking times, thinking that Israel is not gonna retaliate, it's not gonna attack those monsters. We were wondering what the hell is going on. So I wonder, like, if you, being part of the ruling party, have any insights of what really happened over there. And again, do you think we as a state have a strategy towards what's happening to Sweden, or are we just killing the bad guys now and we'll figure it out later?
I know that the Prime Minister and the Minister of Defense and the government, the command of the IDF, is keeping a very, very close and observing eye on what's happening over there. They have very specific and precise plans on what to do and when to do, and I really cannot say anything more than that.
No, you're muted, Mansour.
I said,
لأبنائنا وأخوتنا الأبطال بالسويدة، الجيش العربي السوري والأمن العام، إن رجاء كبير عندكم، ضبوا هواتفكم بجيوبكم، لا تسحب هاتف ولا تصور وتبعت لنا، لا تصور أنت عم تحلق لي الشارع بعرصة، طق رقبته على السكت، ولا تمشوا في أرتال الله يحميكم، الطيران الإسرائيلي عم يستهدفكم، سياراتكم بين البيوت ضمن الأهالي، فوتوا على البيوت وتحصنوا بالبيوت وتحرقوا الأخضر واليابس، لا تستثني حدا، كلهم خنازير، بس الهواتف نسيتوا صار مع أخوتكم بالساحل، في كثير منهم بعدهم بسجل لهلا، اطفي هاتفك بترجاك.
Shamata, did you hear what he said? They learned from the mistakes of Hamas and the mistakes that they did in the Jews before and the Christians. They say, don't record it, guys. Cut their beards, cut their heads, slit their throats. And then he added, because that's when the Israeli Air Force started attacking, he added, okay, listen, the Israeli Air Force is hunting us, so start using human shields. Like, go to plan B. Plan A, just randomly go slaughter. That's jihadist textbooks. Plan B, if you're outgunned, outnumbered, or outsmarted, use human shields. Go and kidnap their women and children, use them in shields. And what we heard, from and I think one of our dear friends, Julia, shared that picture with us. And forgive me if I wanna report it.
It's just that I just got a call that I need to run upstairs and vote.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I'm gonna have to leave you with that. But again, I can make it perfectly clear, and I want all the viewers and listeners to understand that we will not leave the Jews in Syria to fight those monsters alone. These are the same monsters that slaughtered us, and we will not let them do to you what they plan on doing. We are with you in that, and the IDF will not let anything, as much, of course, as we can. The IDF will impose all its power to prevent these acts of killing. But again, it's very, very much important not to break the law, not to run into Syria alone, because you're endangering yourselves. You're endangering the soldiers running after you and looking for you, and you're harming the IDF's ability to act freely. Because when you want to bomb something and when you want to fire, it's very clear that you understand where your enemy is and where the friendly forces are. And when you have these people running around with nobody knowing where exactly they are endangering themselves. So please don't.
You're muted as well.
that was powerful words. Oh, here we are. You said, so please, that's where you stopped.
So please let the army deal with that. Don't take the law in your hands. Don't try doing it yourself, because most likely you will get the people that you love harmed, and you will not help us defeat these monsters.
Very well said. Well, I really appreciate your time. I want to thank you and invite other politicians or members of the parliament who also want to discuss and see together the bond between the Druze and the Jews, and how we can together make something that works so perfectly well and make it work even better, and then we can change the whole Middle East. That's my philosophy in
Hopefully.
any ways. So
Anyway, I
I
have
want to
to
thank
run.
you again.
Okay, I have to run. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Hanoch.
Thank you,
Bye bye.
Hanoch. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Wow, we just had the deputy spokesman of the Israeli Knesset coming here with us live. As you see, me and Khalifa, and I will give a lot of credit to Khalifa here, he's working day and night finding these people in Israel to come and speak and give their voice. That was a very, very special episode that we had, someone from where he is, his position, come and speak and tell very clearly, these are the streets these are the talks that you're hearing between the walls of the Knesset, of the government of Israel. They're very much pro the minorities in the Middle East, protecting them, especially pro the Druze with their covenant that they had for them. So, wow, great job, man. Great job bringing this guy.
I was really surprised by him saying that he didn't see anyone objecting to this intervention of Israel in Sweden, and I found that like very interesting, because at least in my channel, for the sake of the discourse, you need as country to discuss those kind of things, but this thing looks so obvious. Like he said it on the first 2 seconds. He said, we are the same enemy and we have the same goal and we are in this together. So by saying that, it tells me that he knows what we are talking about, basically, and this is what I've been trying to convince all my audience for the past few years, of course. But we were talking before we went on air, and I want to touch on that. We are doing this marathon interviews. We discuss all those things, and I have my Telegram channel and all this content, like this message that you just had. Seeing those people being treated like that, our friends, our sheikh, our respected people. I've seen today a video of those HTS jihadist bastards uploading a small girl body, trying to conceal the evidence of what they did, and it really broke my heart. I started weeping, and every time I have an interview, I have this vision of something that I just saw or something that I just heard, and I'm in a real conflict because I consider myself very sensitive guy, and being so deeply connected to such atrocities, for me there's no conflict here because I want to bring this story, but sometimes it has a real emotional price. So I wonder how you see this thing. Like, we've been going on this in this event for a couple of few days. I know I found myself
Yeah,
saying that maybe I failed, maybe I did something wrong, trying to discuss these things and try to bring this story to the people, and for some reason to try to avoid this day and not doing so. I found myself dealing with those emotional feelings that maybe I went wrong, I did something bad. For those of you who are listening, I would say that in Sweden, just like Hanoch said, they basically came the jihadists with large numbers. Even now, mosques in Idlib are still trying to do jihad from the northern part of Syria towards Sweden. They keep coming. People that I'm talking with, they say they keep coming off roads by foot, and they go and try to do door-to-door fighting in urban places where even the Druze fighters don't have any connection with one another. The place is so poor in poor internet connection, with poor electricity. 3 days that they didn't have any electricity, and they're coming out of power. So less and less stories are coming to us, regardless of even videos or media content that needs some stable internet. So the situation is it's not under control. We can't say that, but we'll say that the Israeli strikes did do a huge effect on the moral side of things. On the Druze side, I played along with my friends, and I've seen how they waited and waited and waited for this attack, and they became desperate. They said, like, we've been trying to shout out that we want this connection with Israel, but nobody listens, and they started losing hope. And then this Israeli airstrike came, and I start talking to my friends, and they say, we came back from the dead, and you'll see how the morale is becoming very, very high, and they're going door to door trying to clear these places. But the situation is so bad that sometimes they even crossfire because there's no official army that is handling this war, and they are fighting a trained, very armored or very loaded with guns jihadists that came with tanks, with the heavy machine guns, with the rocket launchers, with all sort of stuff. But the Druze, even though everything, and they try to humiliate them, they try to do all those atrocities and intimidate the Druze, but luckily for us, they haven't broke yet, and we are happy to see them that even though there's still places like the Sweda Hospital, Central Hospital is still surrounded with jihadists that are trying to intimidate all the sick and wounded people, and there's some rumors of executing people to try to scare the Druze. We're seeing the pictures of them trying to shave the mustaches of elder men and then execute them. We've seen them even for dead bodies trying to vandalize them and do all those things. Again, very heavy burden to take, but this is our job. I feel that we've been working for so many long just for this moment to try and see what we can do now to help those people, and knowing that this is our fight as Israelis, are human beings, are people who really want the best for the Druze. I started talking about the Druze community because 2 years ago I came to realization that this community that's been thriving for hundreds of years is under a real threat of extinction. And once the Bashar al-Assad regime fell, and with this monstrous Islamist country started to establish, I thought that this thing is making things even worse. And now there's a real threat because this is the largest concentration of Druze in the whole world. Those of you who don't know, you cannot become Druze. Druze is only someone who both his parents, father and mother, are Druze, and meaning that in order to break the social fabric of the Druze community throughout the years, especially in the 15 years of the civil war, all kind of tactics have been used against the Druze, especially, terror, economical terror, because the Druze mainly sit on Swida province, a large province, almost 6,000 kilometers of volcano mountain, very isolated place, which gives it a feeling like it's an island. But this island is sitting in a sheer desert or ocean of jihadist Muslims that in the 15 years ago, they had one thing in common, that every one of them somehow in some point released his rage on the Druze people. We remember the massacre of 2018, but nobody knew about those things. Nobody heard about those things. Nobody even conceived that Druze could be victims of basically anti-Semitism, because since we, the Israeli Druze, are such a great friends to the Jewish community, and we pay with our blood, with our thoughts, with our everything to keep this relationship. The Druze in Syria, somehow this thing reflects on them. And this is why the enemies of the state of Israel sees those people as basically as Zionist or Israeli proxies. We've seen today a horrific image of those jihadists going to Sheikh Hikmat al-Hijari house. He's the supreme spiritual leader of the community, someone who been trying very hard to establish some sort of relationship with Israel, and he perceived as someone who's anti-Shara or anti the Islamist state, and he tried to keep his people behind him, saying, no, we're not going to live under this Islamist country no matter what. We will not allow this thing to happen. And today, the jihadist came to his house. I suppose that he wasn't in his house, and I really hope that he's safe and sound.
Yeah.
And what happened is basically that they wrote on the window on the walls that he's a pig and he's a Zionist agent. This is the message that they want to try to say, that we Jews, by being Jews, are Zionist, and this is why we need to be dead. This is how they see their life, and they, in their opinion, in their mind, there's no such thing as even acknowledging Israel, because Israel is the state of Jews, and in their eyes, the Jews are no human beings. It's people who need to be slaughtered, them and everyone affiliated with them. But they don't know that Jews and the Jews and everybody that is in this alliance is the strongest people on earth, and we know that right is with us, and no matter what they're gonna do, no matter what is their numbers, no matter how many guns they're gonna come and how many years they're gonna try, they're never gonna break us, and they're never. We need, like, this is not something that we do happily. We don't go around and say, yeah, we're gonna kill everybody that's gonna even come to Israel. But this is our reality that we need to deal with. Those people see us as monsters. This is why they redeem us as good as dead. Hey Mansour, you came back. How are you doing?
I'm good. I just had to go on another Jewish radio channel that they wanted to ask some urgent questions, so I just had to go and answer. That's why I had the glasses, because I hear through that. But I think I want to jump into a very important question here. And I don't know if you answered it or not, but Avi Muyal is asking, what do you think of the word of the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio? We are very concerned about the Israeli attack in Syria. We are talking to all parties involved and want to stop the fighting. Me and Khalifa yesterday went to the podcast of Armin, the Atheist Republic. And when we asked him about what happened with Iran, he said something very interesting. He said that when all of the Iranian friends were asking him, is this regime going to be toppled finally? Now Israel is coming, America is coming. And he gave them an answer. He said, there's only one human on planet Earth right now that can stop the fall of this evil regime. And that person is Donald Trump. And he was right. He nailed it. He understood it immediately. The only one that can do that is Donald Trump, by actually calling for a ceasefire. And I think it's very important that the West start understanding ceasefire is not a goal in a war. It's not a goal in a war. Victory is a goal in a war. Eradicating evil is a goal in a war. And putting it under the carpet or putting a plaster on a cancer cell in your body is not going to solve it. Sometimes the operation needs to be painful. Sometimes the operation will take time. Sometimes the solution is war, unfortunately. It usually is war because we ignore, because we follow up weak leadership that calls for ceasefire when it's not called for. I'm not a warmonger, but I'm telling you, with Jolani and these jihadists, if that regime is not taken down and humbled, then it's just going to get worse, and one day we will have an October 7. Right now, if the Druze men fall on protecting the Sweda, that's why many Druze, by the way, jumped over the fence. If you don't get the idea, they jumped over the fence because they saw that there's about 700,000 Druze people there, men, women, and children. And the people who came to genocide them is the government, with tanks, artillery, dushkas, with Grad missiles, rockets. These are very serious, heavy stuff. And if the Druze will fall down defending themselves, whoever stopped October 7 was the IDF. So luckily for Israel, the IDF was managed to stop. So there was 1,200 civilian killed and not 20,000, 30,000. If we don't stop what's happening there, there will be about 100, 200, 300, 700. They will kill as many as they can. They literally got instructions for that. So ceasefire is not the solution here. And I feel like America's right now with this administration, they're stuck between the chairs of pleasing a lot of the conspiracy theorists, tinfoil head mega people, not all of them, but some of them, and pleasing some woke right weirdos that are all about, Israel is dragging us to war. Well, you know what, guys? Israel is not dragging into any war right now. Let Israel finish the job here. You don't need to do anything. Just like in Iran, by the way, you didn't need to do almost anything. All you had to do is drive an Uber with a few bunker busters and just, drop them. The pilots could literally play Tetris and fall asleep, and just autopilot reach. Oh, wake up. Oh, we're in Iran. Yeah, where should I drop it? Here. Ding, boom. Oh, nuclear facility is gone. Thank you, Israel. Go. So let Israel do what they do. Israel are okay handling these situations and taking down these bastards. Ceasefire is not the solution. And right now with Jolani, he just proved his cards. And I feel like there's so many people right now trying to collect all kind of Nobel Prize titles. Maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Khalifa. Maybe you see that as well.
Well, that's the thing is that everybody knows that Trump is in a hurry. He has one term and his time is running out, and he wants deals and he wants them fast. So everybody knows he's fragile. So the main strategy of those people will be stalling. So, for example, Iran would say, "I will keep stalling," and then hopefully the regime is gonna change in the U.S. and you will have the Democratic Party and things will go back and everything will be okay. And then you will have Obama-like person that will come and hug Giuliani and say, "Hey, forget about that. Do whatever you want, but let's have very good pictures on a lawn, and we pretend that you are president." And you pretend that we don't know that you are a terrorist, and we have a deal. Everything is okay, and and once in a while, when you do a massacre, with the Alawites or Christians, we will write you a note or a tweet, and we'll say how naughty boy you are, and hopefully, in a generation or two, you will become civilized person. So, to those naive people, I would say we need to it's like Al Capone said, there's so much that you can get with nice words, but you can get much more with a nice words and a gun, and you need to know how to use the gun, because uh, those guys have been speaking violently, expressing themselves in a violent way. Those people, some of them wear vests and went and exploded themselves, or they know persons that did that for them to occupy Idlib and then reach out for all those places. And they did bonds with Turkmen or Azeris or I don't know what, all those foreigners that came for the sole purpose of doing jihad. And I think in the post October 7 world, the world need to say enough. I don't care what you believe in. You don't care about what I believe in. Nobody is trying to do all this bullshit ever again, because that's it. Those ages are done. We need to discuss AI. We need to discuss space and science. There's so much to discover in this world, and we all letting those Islamist assholes, sorry for my French, drag us for like 200 or 300 years ago with a set of moral values that maybe used to be valid in I don't know 1,000 years ago. Today, no reasonable person would ever try to live according to those codes, and the world need to say it safe. Believe in whatever you want. Keep the public sphere for everybody. Your religion to yourself. Practice it in your own house, and this small thing could change the world. And even the Syrians need the help to save them from themselves, because if Syria is going this path, we've seen it happening in Iran, we've seen it happening in Gaza, in every place that this kind of ideology came, it just broke the fabric of society and went with the country down the drains. And once we eliminated Bashar al-Assad and his evil regime, now is the time to demand a correction to all this course.
Mm-hmm. You know what? It's very. I want to bring up something crazy that happened. I don't know if we talked about it before the podcast or after. That image of the IDF airstrike of the General Secretary of Defense in Syria, that building. That attack happened exactly as the reporter was saying the words Israel Katz, kaboom! The whole thing is on the Syrian flag flying in the air, the building, a bah, bah. Israel really stepped up the game, and they're talking right now also of sending special forces inside. We talked about that. So it looks like Israel is taking this very, very seriously, what's happening there. I wanted to take time to answer some questions. Someone asked, should Israel establish independent Druze state in South Syria? I don't know what your thought about this, Khalifa, but I see no other way. Any minority, unless Syria stop becoming Muslim, I see no other way for people to be safe there unless they have their independence from the Muslims.
Well, there's my yoga teacher used to say that a smart man tells the truth and the stupid man tells the whole truth. So I'll keep some of my thoughts in this regard to myself, but I've been thinking about it for the longest time, and in my opinion, the problem is very easy. You have people who lived in a state of no state for so long that they really don't understand how a functional state works. They never felt it. They never experienced this thing. So they need the help of another sovereign countries like Israel to help them go through this process, because if there's something clear after July 15th events that we all saw, the massacres yesterday, the Druze will not allow any Muslim to rule them anymore. That's not gonna happen. They prefer to die because they know it's just exactly how it happened in northern part of Syria, when in Idlib, under the rule of Julani for 15 years, the community of the Druze people in Idlib, next to the Turkey border, they almost got extinct, and they've been tried to the jihadists, the HTS, tried to put them under Islam, to convert them to Islam, heavy terror against them, treating them basically like non-humans and humiliating them and trying to convince them to join Islam. And this is why we had a community of 40 or 50,000 Druze in 2015 in Jabal al-Sumaq in Idlib, in the northern part. Now we have couple of thousands, and the numbers are decreasing. So the same fate is facing the Druze people in Sweden, in Jaramana, in every place, if those guys are gonna rule them. So in my opinion, we should have some sort of a mandate, this buffer zone that will be a state of the Druze that will be supported by some international committee, acknowledging the right of the Druze people to establish a nation, or sort of a nation. It doesn't have to be full state, but we have an 18 years old flag. We have a legacy of our people. We are deeply rooted to this place. We're indigenous to this place. We have deep connection. Like even me, that I never been to Sweden, I never saw it, I never seen how it looks. I spent endless nights waking up and saying, "Oh, I dreamt that I'm walking in Sweden. I dream about this place.
One day, brother.
I yawn for the day that I will come and kiss the ground of this place. Something in my spirit is deeply connected to this place, like a spirit. For me, it's like the spiritual main mass of all my heritage. In a way, we Israelis, the Druze Israelis, face some identity crisis, because we, our head is in the west, but our legs is on the east, and we get divided between those two. And for someone like me, who I don't practice my religion, I'm very curious about it. I hear about it, I try to learn about it, and I do it with my audience. But for me, I don't feel like I'm holding this thing, and I don't know, to be honest, it meets me with my daughter, because I don't know how to pass my heritage to my daughter, and try this is one part of having a religion, that you don't have daily practices, or you don't have those special ceremonies to hold your legacy. So for me, all what I'm doing is, saying, okay, we Druze in Israel are too modernized, too, and just a second, someone just coming in. Just
Something very interesting to add to what Khalifa was talking, maybe in a bit different direction, is there was a call, an interview with an Israeli Druze member of the Knesset, of the government. And he said that just 10 minutes before he went live on that air, that just happened recently, he said that he had a call with one of the sheikhs in Sweden, one of the Druze sheikhs. And that Druze sheikh was telling him, under the bomb, he was hearing the bombing and the shooting behind. He was telling him, tell your IDF to bomb in Sweden. Bomb it on us. And he told him, what do you mean? He said, no, it doesn't matter if you kill the Druze with them. We can't let our women and children fall into the hand of these monsters. So that's how dire the situation was. They were fighting in the streets, jihadists outside their houses, and they said, tell the IDF to come and bomb the whole place. They were literally calling airstrike on themselves at that point, just to save their women and children from falling into the hands of these monsters. So that just tells you how dire the situation is, and it's nothing to take for granted that they're going to prevail this one. Yes, I really hope they do, and they're brave and they're strong and they're courageous, but they have AK-47 and sniper rifles. They're fighting against tanks. Qatar has been sponsoring drones. They don't have drones, so they don't have ammunition. They're completely cut off. So all these things, it's very, very important. People were asking, how can we help in Europe, in America? One way that you can help if you're sitting in front of your screen is by sharing this kind of content. Let it up go. So do all kind of tweets and hashtags about All Eyes in Syria, what is happening. Share the videos that we're doing, the interviews that we go into. Help go out there so the voice is not forgotten, because mainstream media, again and again and again, is just ignoring it. They're calling it in different names and they keep getting it wrong, probably on purpose. I'm pretty sure it's on purpose by this time.
Can you give us like a short update of how things look like, or or a summary of how do you think? What did you hear? Like how things went, and how is the front looks like now?
So the latest update that we can get is not to start from the beginning, but basically from last night, is after the Bedouins and the forces says that's it, they're done. They were kind of staying outside the city, and then in the dawn of morning, they cheated everyone. It was a hudna, and they broke in with tanks, started driving in the cities inside of Sweden, and the city seems like it was going to get controlled. They came just charging on them. The Druze started fighting back, but they were, pushed back and back and back, and they were slaughtering and killing civilians. And when everyone thought that it was lost, me and Khalifa, everyone were hearing like terrible news. We're seeing people, videos of images of people being shot, executed, horrible ways, being, tortured, women, children. And we thought, that's it. October 7 of the Druze, they're going to kill them all. But then the brave men of Sweden, this is their home, their mountain. They went in guerrilla warfare. They just came and ambushed them and took them down and started killing them. And they went basically on a final charge, thinking that this is going to be the end. Imagine a Druze father is probably sitting there giving a shotgun to his, 12 years old kid and telling him, son, you're going to become a man right now. You need to defend this family. I'm going to try to come home, but maybe he won't. Which to me as a father, that's the hardest thing, to lie to your kid. But what are you going to, you're going to give him hope. And then you tell him, before you leave, you tell him, you have just became a man, and don't let anyone take your mother and your sister alive. That's that's what's happening. So that was the mentality that I was getting from my reports from the fighters on the ground, from the people in the houses, saying that they're waiting for the jihadists. They just went to their neighbors. They're waiting for them to come to their home, like October 7, basically. And then in that final charge of the Druze to repel these invaders, the fighter jets came in the sky, came in strong and started just blowing these tanks. And from being depressed and, broken, in tears almost, hearing these news, suddenly I got messages of rejoice, of joy, of roaring like lions as they went and said the jihadists are afraid. They're a bunch of cowards. They like to play strong on the weak, but when they get to face a real enemy, they were shitting their pants, running, screaming, begging for their life, and the Druze went and eliminated them. We thought that was the end of the battle, but what happened is they changed their tactics, and they moved into using human shields and to ethnic cleansing, full on. They stopped looting houses. and stealing stuff. They just started moving from house to house, murdering the family and running to the next. And they started, and that's last I talked to the forces on the ground in the front line, they're trying to divide the city to three right now, 3 sections, so they can divide and conquer, and then slowly clean every neighborhood and just eliminate everyone and picking them one by one. Meanwhile, they're attacking villages outside of the mountain in the flatland in hope to lure the fighter outside of the mountain so they can kill them in the open field. Now, if they don't, they're just going to slaughter the whole village. So the Druze that I'm talking to, these brave men that are standing in the front, were telling me, Yahi Mansour, we don't know. We need advice. We don't know what to do. They're killing our families in the villages, but if we leave the mountain will collapse and then we'll kill everyone here. But we can't let them kill the people there, and they're really torn by the need to go and rescue these small villages that are out there, but they know it's a trap. So that's what's happening. And all of that, by the way, was pushed and sponsored by the government. And the government went and put suddenly their bases in Daraa. And when the IDF was taking them down, they kind of pulled back, and now they're basically arming these jihadists, giving them their weapons and going with them, but mostly pushing them to go in front. And they're just on a zealous of suicidal, murderous run. Havoc. They just want to go and kill as many as they can before they die. Because in the beginning, they used to kidnap girls and loot the house, take chandeliers, phones, TVs. Now they probably know they're not going to live. They know that they're going to be alive for the next half an hour to 3-4 hours. So they say, I'm going to try to murder as many of these Druze people until I get killed. That's what a possessed, murderous, jihadist mentality looks like. And I've faced these people. I've seen them, so I know how they are. Most people don't know that there is people like that. Not one or two. You'd think in your country, you'd hear the news that there's one serial killer. He's crazy. Wow. Imagine a country that is full of these lunatics. There is places in the world that you're the abnormal person if you don't want to murder and kill people. There is places in the world that they admire these things, literally. And some of them are in your countries right now. There is people right now in Europe and in America seeing what is happening and cheering. I just shared a video in my post where you see Jawlani being interviewed by an American guy asking, how did you feel in October 7? And in a moment of honesty, Jawlani came and told him, to be honest with you, like any other Muslim in the world, I was exhilarated, I was happy. So there is people that were very happy in October 7, 9/11. There is people that were happy in 9/11. And they were happy in October 7, and they're happy seeing right now. But back then, they were all contained in their very vile, evil countries. But now they managed to go into your countries, and they're in Norway, in Switzerland, in maybe not so much in Switzerland, but in Germany, in France, on steroids, in the UK, in New York, in America, in South America. There are many places, and they're watching this right now as a football match, and they're cheering whenever they see people tortured and killed. And that might be your neighbors, by the way. Just to wake up, guys. That's how crazy that became.
Did you notice anything like for me that really struck my eye? That even though Jaramana and Sahnaya, which is like two small towns of Druze in the middle of Damascus, covered with, a sea of 5 million Sunnis, they started demonstrations calling up for the fall of Ahmad Ashar. You need to be very brave because those guys been massacred 2 months ago. Hundreds of people died there, and they come and they start demonstrations. You had guys in Lebanon trying to breach out from the Syrian border to from the Lebanese border to Syria to try to fight in. We had our friends here in Israel, the Druze community, that went in a strikes and opened the borders and ran in, trying to support their friends. This tells you, first of all, how connected, deeply rooted this community one in another, and the second thing of how severe we see this threat. It's an existential threat, and we should know that this is what we are dealing with. This is why I've been promoting this idea of the Druze sovereignty for the longest time. People have been calling me the Druze Herzl, not because I woke up in one day and I said, okay, Druze should have a country. Why we don't have a country? And I have a country. My country is Israel, and I'm proud of it, and I live in it happily. But I've just seen the picture that this is what's gonna happen, and I could only hope that all the things that we are seeing, all those intense emotion rodeo that we are going through now, is gonna end up with the independent sovereignty of the Druze people in south of Syria. That will work best, and this is a right that we all are fighting for.
Someone asked here, when was Syria, here, atheist gamer, when was Syria ruled by Christians? So it was ruled mostly by the Roman Empire in the beginning, and then Christianity kind of started there. And when they converted to the Roman Catholic Empire and during the Byzantine kind of, so we'd say between 300 to maybe 600 and something, after Christ, that's the time that it was predominantly Christian, the area. And then Islam came, and basically about 650 or a little bit later, they conquered that area, part of the Islam colonization conquering. And that's when that area.
Oh, okay. I thought that this is a problem on my side, but no, it's on your side. For some reason, we can't hear you. No, I can't hear you. I'll ask the audience. Maybe they. Can you hear me? Am I okay? Audio back. Okay.
Now,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, my mic ran out of battery. This is my fourth podcast consecutive, back to back, live, man.
Yeah.
Insane. Me and
Yeah.
Khalid.
I kept going out. I thought it's somehow a bug in my system because you were talking perfectly and somehow it stopped, and I thought something wrong with what I did. Okay.
Where did I stop? At which part?
Drew's land or Drew's Stain. I can't even remember what you were talking about. So
Okay,
because I
so I
got
was talking
so
about
anxious about.
Christians in Syria. I was talking that Syria was predominantly Christian before the Muslims came.
Mhm.
And when the Muslim came around 650, 70, something later in the conquest of the Islam, they managed to conquer Syria. And then they were fighting back and forth, being Christians and Muslims over the land, and part of it was Syria. So the Christians were way, way before Islam in Syria. And the only problem is that Islam slowly started killing them and, expelling them and destroying their holy sites. We've seen that with ISIS as well. They tend to go and destroy other religions' holy sites. Syria is known to be rich in Jewish and Christian history. Some of the, very, very precious geographical and archaeological holy sites, religious sites that are mentioned in the Bible, in the New Testament, are in Syria. So it's a very important place for Christianity. But what happened is that the more that place became Muslim, and later on, the state of Syria was established as a Muslim country as well, and some, basically drug lord stole that country, Bashar al-Assad, and made it, his playground for drugs and terrorism. And that's when the situation got almost the worst. There were other periods of time, but when really Jews couldn't live there anymore, Christians became very heavily persecuted, Druze, and etc. So that is the situation that we have kind of in this area of Syria. If you look at the history of things that are happening, it is not a Muslim place. Syria doesn't belong to Muslims. They stole it from the Christians, and they basically killed everyone there and colonized it. Now, many other religions back in history stole lands from one another. That's part of history. They steal, they take, they kill. History is written by the victors. The only question is, what are they doing with it? Are they moving forward to a better place, or are they, still destroying it? And undoubtedly, you just look at Syria and you would see very clearly what are they doing with it. They're not doing anything good with it. They're just killing more.
Yeah, well, there are some forces, trying to put some reason to the whole discourse, but really, there's a little bit of sanity in among all of these things happening here. As you said, it's jihadist mentality that it has only one way is, and it's to disappear from this earth. It's rather them committing suicide bombing or killing themselves, but those people is a death cult and their wish is to die, and this is what they are doing, and this is really frustrating that this is what we need to deal with for the longest time. But these people, this is how they conceive their reality as kuffar and believers. And kuffar you should kill, and believers you should rule with a stick and make everybody that he's a believer. What if I'm not a believer? I believe in, in statues or whatever you want. I have the freedom to do that.
Hot
I have a freedom with my own belief, with my own God, with my own set of values, and you, unless I don't somehow, uh, do any harm to you, then you have no right to come to my place and tell me how should I conduct my life, and that's the end of story.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yes, Gamer, I hope I answered your question. If you want clarification, you can ask. Like I said, I'm quite a history nerd when it comes to these things. I'm not, an expert like, maybe 20 years professors in university, but I've been studying a lot about this history. Me and Khalifa, we really like it. When I visited Khalifa, one of the first places he took me was to see some ancient um, Jewish town that existed in the Carmel where the time of Elijah, the prophet, and he was taking me to see some of the ruins there. And it was a big, big town. It's crazy. Next to Mahraqa. That's where, by the way, he runs every day. That savage beast that you see here, guys, he runs every day in the heat of the summer. Doesn't matter when. It's his way, I think, to meditate. So,
Yeah, I need to suffer in order to, relax the rest of my day. I would say this is the chance to feel the lousiest in this time in me running, because, being connected to so many stories and hearing, the begging of people that see those night walkers, this death cult fighters coming, and even imagining what's gonna be the faith of the small children for the girls. And we know all those people are, sick bastards, and we've seen what they are doing, and just the thought of that, the terror of, being invaded by those bloodthirsty cult people, it terrifies me. And being connected to all those people trying to reach out and tell me, please save us, where is your country, can you please do anything? And I say, I'm trying to do the best I can, and I only have this platform to talk about it, to speak out, and try to convince as much people to put their time into it and try to understand what's going on, because it's gonna meet us in one way or another.
yeah, yeah. Someone is asking here. I haven't heard any report about that, Iris, that the Druze have reached an agreement for a ceasefire and becoming part of this government. I'll be very surprised if that's the case. What I'm actually seeing is that maybe we're witnessing live right now the toppling of that government, because Israel is really bombing deep inside of Damascus, and they're sending a very clear message, guys. Don't get confused. Don't get confused. The Syrian regime is pretty much on the bottom of the food chain when it comes to military capabilities in the Middle East. And it's very funny when you see these jihadists walking like they're brave warriors in the street just because they shot a little girl, and then they feel like they're so powerful. I think Israel is reminding them, guys, you are literally on the bottom of the food chain. We just toppled almost Iranian regime without even sweating. We took down Hezbollah, which is like 1,000,000 times stronger than you guys, without just with a bunch of nerds pressing a button. So if you need a reminder, Israel can literally obliterate and crush them and send them to the Stone Age. And I think Israel is just sending them that message right now. So it depends on how smart or stupid the Arabs in Syria are. That's going to be the outcome. My guess is mostly going to be they're going to be stupid, then victim, and then maybe smart once their whole country is in ashes, like Gaza, basically. Stupid. We have a parachute. We have a few drones. Let's go conquer Israel. They have nuclear weapons. They have submarines and fighter jets and stealth, aircraft. Let's try that. Then they go, stupid. Then they run with kidnap, hostages, stupid. Then Israel comes, victim. And now they're like, ceasefire. I don't know what, So it's pretty much the same. It's literally, jihadists are probably one of the lowest IQ fighters on planet Earth, and they're just obsessed with fighting. Talking right now from, military world. They're not like, honestly, a joke. So Syria is gonna F around and find out, and I think they are. Now, something interesting someone said here, Egypt was Christian, Islam stole from, the Middle East was all Christian, an area, and stolen by Islam. I will just say this. If we look today, any place that was Christian is doing very well today. Europe, America, Australia, a lot of Christian countries. That's like the leading countries on planet Earth. It's not that they don't identify anymore as like predominantly Christians, but the result of that civilization have brought progress in science. Anywhere that was Muslim is heavily failing. And the only places that they're not failing is just because a bunch of guys came with a camel and rested next to a place that had oil in the ground. It's like, whoa! And then they became very rich. But in terms of human rights and all kind of stuff, science and innovation, they were not, up until recently, they were never like doing anything. They just got luckily rich and, started creating more problems around the world. So if you look at it that way, from a simplistic way, then you ask yourself, okay, so what is the problem in the Middle East? Someone can come and say, sounds like the problem is Islam. I don't know. Try to convince me otherwise. I'm just looking dry on the paper. Anywhere that is not Muslim, great life. People have human rights. Minorities can freely practice their religion. Islam, terrible life. Economy collapse. Terrorism, persecuting minorities, killing the people. No science, no advancements, going back. So you tell me, what is the problem in the Middle East? I mean, just looking at dry, someone can try to convince me otherwise, please.
I think we are witnessing a paradigm shift. Like for the past 100 years, the Muslim world, the Arab world, has been trying to figure out the way of, of being under a sovereign country. You could see some patterns. You could see that flourishing countries are the ones who like have king or a monarch in top of them. Something in this tribal community needs this kind of uh, enlightened monarchy or dictatorship, because it works. It's work in UAE, it works in Saudi Arabia, it works in all those kinds of places. People think that UAE is rich because they have gold, they have gas and oil, but that's not the case. Libya is full of gas and oil. um, you have Iraq, which is a failing country. You have Syria that also have rich minerals, but all those places failed simply because they use most of their energy to try to control their citizens, basically, and not give them the basic freedoms. And by this way, you grow up sheep. You don't grow up sovereign human beings that actually could compete with the Western world. So now we see that with the help of the Abrahamic Accords, with UAE, with Bahrain, with Sudan, with all those countries that started normalizing the relationship between Israel and the neighboring country, Jordan as well, who although used to have big chunk of Muslim brotherhood in their community, they used to be in their parliament. They even, they worked along with Hezbollah and Hamas and tried to do all this fuss. The King Abdullah a few months ago that just went to a fight and exterminated this community, and he is persecuting them, and knowing that enough is enough. So yes, Morocco, for example, it's not rich with oil, but still, being a monarchy that has a king on top, he has legitimacy, because all those people, all those systems are fighting for legitimacy. Iranian are fighting for the legitimacy for ruling the Islamic world. They are competing with Turkey and Egypt and KSA with Saudi Arabia. And each and every one has his own model, and they are trying to convince the others that this is the way that we should build a strong country. My concern is, once the Syrian get some sense to their minds and say, okay, we first want to establish like a decent country, and then we're gonna come and fight Israel. Like our bet is that all those countries, Lebanon and Syria, once they taste a real life of luxury, having a decent work and profiting money and living luxurious life, they will abandon all this nonsense of getting virgins on the Eden, the Garden of Eden, and get to some sense. But it has still a risk in it that we will meet them in the next round, but this time they will be more powerful and more enlightened. But that's a fight for another day. Today we need to make sure that the Druze won't get extinct, and maybe to establish a buffer country between us and Syria that somehow will take out the sting from all these aspirations to come and conquer Israel or the Galil or the Golan Heights or all those things, and say, okay, well, you gain some, you lose some. We got our sovereignty, but we couldn't keep all our country to ourselves. I'm talking about, of course, the Sunnis, and that's a decent thing to know. You could do some population exchange, put some minorities in a safer areas, and give the Sunnis the opportunity to set their own country in the way they like. Like, we don't mind them living in Sharia law country if that's what they want, so have it, but not to try to force that on all the minorities, which is a bad thing to begin with.
All right, guys, we've been talking for quite some time. I just wanted to finish maybe with answering one, unless Khalifa has something to add to it. Someone said, it seems like most of the countries created by British and French have failed. Jordan, the kingdom, working a bit better. Now, something very interesting, look at it. The most successful country in the world, let's call it America for that case, or one of the most, became so successful because they detached themselves from the UK. They ran away from them. Everywhere that these guys colonized, it just created a mess. Like, literally, most countries that were colonized by these countries until today are suffering from it. And I think they came with a very cocky and condescending kind of behavior without understanding what has happened, just made a mess and left. The only country that actually did very good is Israel. One of the countries that they left. It did very, very good in the Middle East. But they're still dealing with the other Muslim countries that did very, very bad. So that makes you think that maybe the problem was not necessarily what they created, is that what they ignored when they created it. They ignored a fundamental problem that was deeply rooted in the Muslim empire that is still today existent. They want to conquer the world, they want to conquer planet Earth, and they want to convert everyone. And the only time they won't do it is when they can't, not because they don't want. And the Druze in Syria are feeling it right now. They want to kill them, they want to convert them, they want to take their women. and they're trying to do it. And the only way to stop them from doing it is by defeating them. They're not leaving any other option. They're not saying, let's negotiate on the table. How can we live and coexist? There's not a single word like that. Even Palestine with Israel, they never really said, let's see how can we coexist. All the two-state solution, by the way, the main one that keep denying that is Palestine. They reject that every time. They said, no, we want one-state solution from the river to the sea. We want to kill them all. Why don't you get that to your head? So when you understand that, you understand that the problem here is literally that one side just doesn't want to live along with others. And the only time they do live along with others is if the other is stronger. And then they usually undermine and try to destroy this other. Now I'm generalizing it very big right now. Yes, there is pockets of, peaceful people here and there, quite a lot sometimes even. But they're not representing the big picture of what we're seeing today. And Syria is representing that big picture. Iran is representing that big picture.
You know
Lebanon.
what? I wanna to challenge that for a bit and say, the way I see it is, first of all, what's happening in Europe is that Islam is putting a mirror in front of the Christian countries and trying to ask them, what do you mean? Like, if you look today, Europe in some way in this strange, let's call it quote unquote, like dark age, like you see the glamour of Europe is decaying and something bad is happening to it. And in my opinion, that's the direct result of the UAE idea. Let's give our borders away and we will all be European, and then you will get this mishmash that it's not really understandable. Like, if you have a lot of nations and trying to put them under this mega continental state doesn't make any sense in my opinion. The British, the UK recognized that. This is why they did the Brexit. And you have, on the other hand, massive immigration of Muslims, and Muslims, they know what they know. Like, once you are a hammer, you see the whole world as nails. So once they come from their states, they try to copy paste what they know, and they ask the country, is it okay for me to do this? Is it okay for me to do that? And bit by bit, knowing that every time the Christian countries, in order to look liberal and live and let live, they played along with the Muslims, and at some point they lost their own identity. And this is what we are looking now, that Hungary is stepping up and say, okay, no free immigration. Germany could do that. We will not tolerate that. Also Poland, all those countries. And in my opinion, Islamic world as a heritage has this fuse that they all look towards the Prophet Muhammad as their ideal. But Prophet Muhammad said, no other prophet will come after me. And since he didn't put an heir to his kingdom, to his nation, he created a situation where all this transfer of power somehow went to different ages. And then you had this empire, Ottoman Empire, that they kept it alive. Britain kept it alive for 100 years, calling it the sick man. And once they took the wrong side of history in World War I, I think they somehow deemed all the Muslims or the Arabs to keep going on this side, that they never lost the war. In a way, they keep everybody. What's all have in connection? You have the Egyptian, you have the Iranian, you have the Turks, you have all those countries. Somehow they have the state of mind of a great empire. And once you say occupation, they talk about Israel, but they really occupied massive amounts of country, and they still have this set of mind that we are a nation of 1 billion people, but they have nothing in common. And I think they are fighting now for their way of modernizing Islam, because whatever they used to work for the past 100 years, it didn't work. Some of them did better, some of them did worse, but in general speaking, if you are an Arab speaking person and you hear us speak in Arabic, then you probably are poor, you don't enjoy basic freedoms, and you are living in a failing country, generally speaking, except the exceptions that now are leading a model of something more modern, in my opinion. Okay, we talked too much, I guess.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to see if I can jump on Tusi. They're saying that he's interested to talk. If that's the case, I'll go there and try to reach him. By the way, if anyone can say, he can reach me out on Discord, I guess, or on Instagram. I'll wait and see, and I'll jump in. I'll see if he's using YouTube captions or Google Translate. Huh? Okay, I despise Discord. Okay, good. Well, anyway, Khalifa, let's keep
Been a
everyone
pleasure, my
updated.
friend.
Stay safe, brother. Aburai.
Thanks, brother. See you later.